Hello, students and families. My name is Mary Lynch, and I am a director in the Office of the Chief Academic Officer. In my role, I serve the many diverse needs of our students and families within Natomas Unified School District. We're excited to share with you version 1 of Natomas Unified School District's first student-parent orientation presentation regarding our new distance learning process. As we begin the new endeavor together, we're hopeful that you'll find this orientation video helpful. We want to begin this presentation by saying that we do realize that every family dynamic and environment is unique, so please keep this in mind as you are learning and adapting to this new distance learning experience. We realize that flexibility and understanding is needed throughout the entire process. As we move forward together, we are confident that you will find this presentation helpful and are hopeful that it will ease some of your looming questions and concerns about distance learning in Natomas Unified School District. So let's get started. Hello, we would like to welcome all of our families and students to our distance learning orientation. We start with the NUSD vision in mind that all NUSD students graduate as college and career ready, productive, responsible, and engaged global citizens that will serve families as a guide and reference to distance learning in Natomas Unified School District. Today, we will be reviewing several distance learning topics. However, before we get started, I want to remind students and families to please keep in mind that this is the first version of the Natomas Unified School District Parent-Student Orientation presentation. And as we learn more that might be helpful to our families and students, we'll update the presentation to include new information. This allows us to grow and learn and be imperfect at the same time. With that in mind, we'll be covering the following topics. First off, the definition of distance learning. Secondly, how you can start preparing students' learning environments at home. Thirdly, we will review with you some popular teaching platforms such as Google and Zoom. Fourthly, we will also review tips that you may find helpful during this experience. And finally, the fifth thing that we'll cover is we'll be providing you online resources that you can use as you move through this process. Please keep in mind that this orientation video will be something that you can refer back to once distance learning has begun. So how do we move forward with distance/virtual learning? Let's get started with the definition of distance learning. Distance learning gives learners who are not in the same physical location as their teacher access to online educational materials. Due to the COVID-19 virus, distance learning is something that is becoming a common practice in school districts, colleges, and universities to educate students on the necessary topics regardless of his or her location. We are fortunate to already have access to a variety of technology tools that we already use, such as Google Suite and apps like Google Classroom and Google Meet. Getting started and general expectations. Families and students are probably wondering, what will we need in order to get started? So many families are wondering, what does the timeline look like for the remainder of the year? We have that here for you in our student orientation timeline for the rest of the school year. Starting Monday, March 30th, we move into a new phase of our temporary transition to virtual/distance learning. In collaboration with our teachers, we have planned the following. Weeks of March 30th and April 6th. Families are provided orientation and technology to begin distance learning. We will distribute Chromebooks out from March 27th through April 19th. We will also be working with families to access available hotspots in their communities with expanded free access during this unprecedented time. Most of our Wi-Fi hotspots won't arrive until April 6th, and then we will distribute as needed. Teachers will begin to pilot lesson plans with students who are able to begin enrichment and review. These 2 pilot weeks are to allow staff and students to learn our new distance learning model and to continue engaging kids the best we can while we distribute technology to families. Cleaning, unplugging, wrapping Chromebook cords, turning on all student email accounts, tracking which machines will go to which students, and distributing what we expect to be about 6,000 to 7,000 Chromebooks definitely takes some time. The week of April 13th is our regularly scheduled spring break, and there is no school. Weeks of April 20th through May 21st. School is open virtually. Teachers will provide student curriculum through our online platforms. Students will receive the amount of curricular and enrichment material suitable for the weekly equivalent of 5 weeks worth of instruction commencing April 20th. Distance learning activities provided to students shall include enrichment, engagement, and review. The activities provided will not require summative assessments or grading. In addition, students will be held harmless and will not receive a lesser grade than their current grade as a result of engaging in distance learning during this unprecedented time. This aligns with the State Superintendent of Public Instruction's recent statements that assessments should not be used during this time as a summative measure, but rather as a formative measure to gauge instruction and where students need support. If schools are physically reopened before May 21st, we would return to our traditional format. Student progress. Students' grades can only go up, not down. That's what held harmless means. We ask that our students engage to the best of their ability with the 5 weeks worth of content being provided by teachers. With the exception of our seniors who are finishing their final high school semester, our students will matriculate to the next grade level in August of 2020. Communication and availability. Students and families can expect teachers to communicate weekly when they will be available each weekday to provide supports to students via email and/or other virtual platforms. It's important for you to be in close communication with your students' teachers throughout the distance learning experience. We also expect students to remain as engaged with instruction as possible and to seek support when needed. Google Suite. As we begin the actual learning and instruction process, we will briefly touch on what platforms may be used by your student's teacher. So this is an introduction to Google Suite or G Suite apps. G Suite apps is a platform that many teachers are already using with students to complete assignments. Therefore, many students will already be familiar with the different apps in Google. This slide shows you all of the core educational services offered in Google. For example, virtual classroom, Gmail, the Google Drive where you save things, personal calendar, ways to create documents. So as you are looking at the slide right here, you can easily see all of the core services offered in G Suite apps. To get familiarized with what apps are available in the G Suite, please take some time after this video to review the embedded links. Read each link. If you want more information about this, please click on the blue link. I realize that this may seem overwhelming at first glance, especially if you haven't seen this platform before, but just remember, this is simply your reference guide to Google Apps. So we have Google Classroom, Google Sites, Google Meet, and Google Drive. Moving forward, I wanted to take a moment to talk about what is Google Classroom. Teachers can electronically assign, organize homework, communicate and provide feedback, share educational resources. There are plenty of benefits for parents and students in order to communicate with teachers and for parents to monitor their students' progress. Accessing G Suite apps is the next part we wanted to discuss and touch on. If you want to find out more about G Suite apps, the Parent's Guide to Google Classroom is linked on this slide. And you can just log into the Google account, access G Suite apps, and navigate Google Classroom. Guardian Email is a feature that Google Classroom provides as a way to help communication between home and school. Teachers can update parents' emails and then send needed correspondence to the selected guardian. Weekly or daily emails, missing work, upcoming work, class activity. I think this is a really great tool for communication between home and school. Moving forward, a teacher may decide to use Zoom.us as a platform. Zoom.us is a popular platform for instruction that your student's teacher may choose to use for distance or virtual learning. If a teacher decides to use Zoom.us as part of his or her teaching platform, students will connect via their device with their teacher to receive instruction. Teachers will be pushing out information to students and parents if this is the platform he or she decides to use. Moving forward, I wanted to touch a little bit on accessing online curriculum. Moving from Google and Zoom to a more local form of accessing online curriculum, we wanted to share with you that each one of your school sites has a link on their home website under the Chromebook homepage where you can actually click on and see what's being used. So we wanted to let you know that we have this locally created page that includes online curriculum resources by each school site. This just helps you get an idea of the different online curriculum and educational websites that are already being utilized in some way at your specific school site. We also want to review with families some helpful tips about student learning environments. Keeping your school routines and patterns at home the same will be very helpful for families. This can be more challenging than you would think. So remember that this distance virtual learning journey is one that doesn't happen overnight and may take some time for students and families to get used to. One tip that may help parents and students ensure that your students' learning is going to be going well is providing an appropriate space for them. So routines and patterns for students at home. The establishment of patterns and routines during an online course can help instructors and students develop a sense of time management to balance the expectations of online courses with their non-course or / life activities. So ideally, your students' learning space should be quiet, monitored, motivational, and mobile. That being said, every household is different, so it's going to look different in every home. But just remember that ideally your students' learning space should be quiet, monitored, motivational, and mobile. Tips for setting up distance or virtual learning. We wanted to make sure that you had some helpful tips here. Prepare a weekly schedule for your student, preview some lessons. For elementary students, assist with lessons. For middle school and high school, provide guidance with lessons, and then supervise daily lesson completion as well. Tips for setting up a schedule. This clearly is dependent upon grade level and what process your students' teachers may have in place, but be sure to include your student in the decision process when creating the schedule. Consider your students' preferred time to complete various subjects. Feel free to include other extracurricular activities or personal events within your student's schedule. As your student begins to complete lessons, you may find that one subject requires extra time while others require less. Set your student up for success. Stay connected with his or her teacher to ensure lines of communication are open. Transitioning a little bit to resources that support our NUSD families. We found it extremely important to make sure that we provided for you some different avenues and resources regarding supports. So Common Sense Media is the first area I wanted to touch on. Common Sense Media is dedicated to helping kids thrive in a world of media and technology. They provide unbiased information and advice to help parents keep kids safe while interacting with technology. Parent resources in a digital world. Here you can see that this slide provides several links that can be helpful to families with regard to the digital world. Please take some time to review these websites and videos at your leisure. We also wanted to provide families with information about social and emotional supports. This is provided online already, but we wanted to touch on it in this presentation just to make sure that you were aware of all the amazing supports that we provide for our Natomas Unified School District families. If you click on the link provided here, it's under Support Your Child's Social Emotional Needs During School Closures. You will find a ton of information about talking to students about COVID-19, about activities, and all kinds of amazing resources. So I highly recommend that you take a moment and go to this website at a time that you have to just peruse and see what's out there. This will be extremely helpful for both you and your student moving forward. So if there comes a point where you have any questions or concerns, especially with regard to your students' access to instruction or otherwise, please reach out to the school, starting with the teacher. In addition, each school site will have a virtual office up and running, and all contact information is available on each school's website. If you have issues reaching a school site, please feel free to reach out to constituent and customer services at 916-561-5253. We hope that this orientation video has been helpful for families and it will support you as you move through this new endeavor of distance learning. Please keep in mind that this is the first version of the NUSD parent-student orientation, and as we learn more that might be helpful to our families and students, we will update the presentation to include new information. Again, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, this allows us to grow and learn and be imperfect at the same time. Thank you and have a wonderful day.